Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science and spirituality are telling us that we are all connected, that we're all one. So what you do to another person, you're literally doing to another aspect of yourself. So when mankind wakes up to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is WorldPeacefull introduces real hope with peace clown Suzanne Carew. Suzanne is actually connecting live from Australia. I so appreciate her being with us, and welcome, Suzanne, to Awake to Oneness Radio. Welcome.
Hello there, Carolyn. How are you? Great to be on air with you.
Love it, love it, love it. I love it. I love your accent.
I love yours.
To tell you.
You talk more.
I just love the accent. I could just listen to you talk because I just love your accent. But Suzanne, thank you for sharing, being with us live. It is early Saturday morning there. It is 7 o'clock in the evening on the East Coast of the States, of the United States, but it is 9 a.m. there in Australia on a Saturday. Different day. We're not even in the same day. But could you please share? Can you share with you?
I will.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You're talking with a clown now, so it may not go so smoothly because we tend to be spontaneous.
Oh, I love it. I love the spontaneity. I love clowns.
What I was going to tell you was, even though we are on different parts of the world, in truth, we're in the now moment. Now, this is the oneness. And
exactly.
For those who are listening at this point in time right now, this is the perfect moment for you to tune in because you're here with us. And I also want to say to you, Carolyn, that I really loved your introduction, and I'm sending love to you too because what you're doing is absolutely essential on the planet right now. And I think many of us, in a sense, are spontaneously starting to awaken to the idea that we're actually talking, as you said quite succinctly, to aspects of ourselves. And I guess I would reflect the aspect that's the clown, that is the part of us that's not serious. This is the non-ego aspect which loves everyone.
So true, so true. That is so true what you just said. It is always, all there is the now. Time is an illusion. And I love how Einstein said it. Time is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. I love that. That's my favorite Einstein quote. So we know all there is the now moment. It's just now it is Saturday for you, and it's still Friday for me, but it's still all the now moment. And what I love about Internet radio is that whenever, if someone's listening in live, wonderful, but if they're listening a week from now, 2 months from now, even a year from now, someone can listen in on this conversation on the Internet. So I love that about Internet radio. It will be there for everyone to listen to whenever. And when they tune in, will be the perfect time, the perfect now moment for them to tune into this show. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. But I like for you, Suzanne, to share with our listeners your journey. Let's give the audience a sense of who you are and how you got to be where you're at today.
Well, I've had an incredibly long journey. It feels like I've lived a few lifetimes in this lifetime. I might just contextualize this by saying, prior to becoming a clown, I worked in 400 companies, actually. I worked as a contract worker, temping. I worked in every industry. This is when I was quite young, and I even worked in London for a time, and I remember having an economics degree because I went on and did economics, and I was sitting doing a temp job at the City of London, and I was looking at all the bankers, and I was seeing them all watching their screens, and there was literally rows and rows and rows of them, and I remember thinking, isn't it interesting? Here I am, I'm an economist, and probably more qualified than some of those guys, and there are heaps and heaps of money. Whereas I was working as a contractor, and yet I thought to myself, the only difference being is they're looking at a screen and looking at demand and supply curves, up and down, buy and sell. And here I was graphic designing at the time, and I was being paid a lot less. So the insight I had from this experience was the thing we call work and how it's paid for, and the inequalities in which it creates, and how we perceive ourselves on the basis of what we do. Now, what led me into clowning was really inspiration, because after my 2 years in Britain, I actually, I'd had a very difficult time, and I was really asking within myself, I want happiness. And I said, even if I can have it for 2 weeks, I was trying to negotiate. That would be good.
Yes.
Give me 2 weeks of happiness. And I'm not an unhappy person, I might add. I'm actually an optimistic person by nature. So it just shows you the degree to which I was under stress, like many people are today. Yes. And as it turned out, I came back to Australia and I got inspired to become a clown. Now, it was just the universe conspiring, I had a friend who ran a business enterprise centre near Canberra. Canberra is the capital of Australia. Queanbeyan is just is the next town, if you like. It's only 20 minutes from Canberra, and it's in New South Wales, so it's in another state. So I actually went to this BEC in Queanbeyan, and a friend of mine had a presenter called Patricia Cameron Hill and Shane Yates. Now, Shane's her husband, and the two of them were talking about humour in workplaces. And so they were trying to educate teams of people to lighten up at work and to start to bring funny into work. And wow. I had the opportunity to meet with Patricia afterwards, and we got talking, and she talked in a lecture about being a clown. And, of course, I perked up when I saw the clown because, I come from a family of idiots, really. And so I just said to her, I could do that. I can be a clown. And so within 24 hours, I called another crazy friend of mine who's also into spirituality, actually. Conversations with God. The book by Neil Donald Walsh. Well, we were kind of having a look at that and exploring it at the time.
Beautiful.
And I just said to her, let's just go and be clowns in the hospital. Let's go. So we did. We went to the $2 shop, bought up some colourful clothes and props, and I think we created Wally the Jolly Trolley. And we basically just went to a hospital and started hugging everyone.
Oh, and how beautiful.
That's how it began.
Wow, no, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. I think comedians and clowns have the best jobs in the world. I mean, it's so true what they say about laughter. Laughter is the best medicine. And, to bring joy and laughter to someone, especially like in a hospital, that's amazing. I think that's wonderful.
And yet, I'll talk about Patch Adams a bit later, but something, as you know, I went to Russia with Patch, but what was interesting about a statement Patch made is that he said, what we think, people may think what we do is extraordinary, but in reality it's ordinary. And I agree with him. It appears extraordinary in a world that's quite depressed, but our natural state of being is joy when we're in alignment with our truth. Now, truth is obviously a contentious issue. Everybody has different viewpoints on truth. But the sort of truth I'm talking about is when you're in alignment with your true self. And you always know that it's true because it feels good. And so the clown or the fool, I'm a fool, my archetype is a fool, sort of reminds us to connect into the lighter part of who we are by simply letting go of, we're kind of like shedding a lot of the conditioning. And I'll explain to you a little bit as we go through what it's like to actually be a clown and what really is going on, because anyone is a clown. I know everyone is a clown in truth. We all are. You know, you go and have a few beers and suddenly you become a twit, you know, or you start mucking around. And that's the energy. So we all have it, and that's why typically clowns are loved, even though there is emerging fears around clown. I do understand that as well, and it's not to do with the clown. It's to do with not being able to control situations. Clowns are spontaneous, so we very much come into a moment. We don't know what we're doing, those of us who are fairly wild clowns. And we just simply connect and we play with those who are around us. So that's what the clowning experience in the hospital was really fantastic, because what I know, and certainly what Patch Adams knows and many others know who are in the healing area, is that the humour, it actually evokes endorphins in the body. It catalyzes a biochemical reaction in the body where you actually are generating all these endorphins. And this is like your natural high. It gives you a natural high. And so when you go into a moment and you start to play with someone, you know, it's a really amazing, beautiful experience because you're actually joining with that other. There is no sense of separation in that moment of humour when you're all laughing. And what I can honestly say to you, I mean, I feel privileged having been a clown because it's given me the true insight into what it's like to be one with everything. And there's no thought, you see. When you're a clown, you don't have time to go, oh, I think I'll hug that person, or I won't hug that person. You can't. You go into a space and it's like, I am in love. Who's next?
Yes.
You don't even think that. You just race up to people. But you do it in a way that's non-confronting. Like I've learnt over the years, if I'm going to give someone a massage on the back, for example, give them the experience of peace, I show them the massager first, and I get eye contact, and I make sure that they're saying to me, yes. I don't just rush up to them and just go, right, I'm going to make you happy, you know. That's not my job. My job is to be happy and share it. I'm not here to make you happy, actually.
Right.
And what I say to people if they come out with me on the street or whatever, wherever I am, I say, we're not here to entertain the public. The public is entertaining us. So don't worry about pleasing them. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Please yourself.
Right. That is so true what you shared about going within. And it's so true that everyone, I encourage that on this show all the time, everyone's truth may look different, but you find truth within. You go within and tap into that truth that is inside of you and then bring it out. That's why you came here. You came to be your authentic, true self, and it comes from within. You have to go within to find it, and it doesn't have to look, it won't look the same as anybody else's truth. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to be your uniqueness that you bring to the whole, because we are all one, and we all have that uniqueness to bring and share with each other. So it's so true. What you're saying is so true. I mean, we're so much in alignment, and you're on the other side of the world. and yet I'm not, you know. And what I see is it's not a doing, it's a being. And so for people who are listening to this and say, well, how do I tap in? Well, it's you don't have to worry about that. It's just do whatever you love. Wherever love inspires, you're naturally connecting anyway. You don't even have to give it any thought whatsoever. Love itself shows you the way.
the beautiful thing about clowning is because I'm not thinking when I'm clowning, and this is a difference from performance clowning where they're actually got a show that they're putting on for you. I'm a different type of clown. I'm a peace clown. So what that means is when I turn up, I'm just turning up and I have no idea what I'm going to do. I have no idea. My skill base I would put probably as medium in terms of if I compared myself to professional clowns who go out there and they juggle 1,000, clubs and they do all these amazing magic tricks, I call them the masters of the universe. I'm a different type of clown. My attraction to clowning was to go and really connect, and I have an ability to connect with anyone, anywhere, and I can make an instant friendship whether I'm a clown or I'm not, because it's the love energy within me that I'm projecting, and I genuinely love everyone that I meet. And I've, just to sort of give you a bit of an idea, the hospital, I'll just give you a bit of an insight into the hospital clowning and then on the streets a little bit. In the hospitals, it's very, very powerful. I mean, I've met the most amazing people in hospital. I even met soldiers because I did some clowning with the veterans. One of them had told me he'd even seen, he was at Hiroshima, and he was obviously a long way from when that bomb exploded, but he was around that. He said he saw it. I don't know. I'm thinking back to that. I'm thinking, is that really true? But that's what he told me. And, I met other people. I met a guy, for example, you may laugh at this. He was American. And if I want to stir an American, I can call them Canadian. Are you Canadian? No, I'm American. I'm an American. And I said to this guy, where are you from in the States? And he goes, I'm from Texas. I went, really? I said, do you know George Bush? Because this was around the era of George Bush. And he goes, actually, he's my neighbor. I said, you're kidding me. I said, what's he like? He goes, there's a lot of shooting next door. And I thought, well, what's changed?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, look, it's hilarious. And, I met another guy who had, I think it was cerebral palsy. And I was clowning with a really lovely old guy. He was about 70 years old, and he was an incredibly beautiful clown. And he and I went up to this guy, and this guy had an old-fashioned typewriter, like, the ones with the keys that you bang, bang, bang away on? Yes. He was typing poetry in the hospital, and I had a look at it, and it was the most amazing. It was actually, he was typing poetry in the Australian sort of traditional poetry, out in the rural outback, sort of thing. And so I grabbed his poem, and I started to speak it out loud to everyone. And he was happy with that. And it was the most incredible poem I had ever read. And I'm a poet myself. And it was like how you look at this man, he was ticking, dribbling, carrying on. People would look at him and write him off. But he wasn't. He was brilliant, and he was deeply inspired. And when I think of him, I feel this enormous love. I'm feeling it right now. He was just so beautiful. And anyway, we made a real connection. And me and I call him Harry Potter. I'm called Peaceful. Harry Potter and I, we headed off down the hall after we finished. And then he started staggering down the hall after us, like he was dragging his leg. He was all excited. And he gave me his telephone number and his address, and he wanted to keep in touch. Yes. Now, that comes from just a moment with someone. Actually, there's a couple of more moments I'm going to just tell you whilst it's coming into my mind. Another amazing thing that happened was I was with this woman who was sitting up at the end of her bed, and she had a bed tray in front of her, like, for food. Right. And I go up to her and I go, oh, hello, gorgeous. I said, you're so gorgeous today. I said, I've got my love glasses on, and I was sort of spreading the love. And what I did was I blew up a balloon. What I often do is blow up a balloon, and then I accidentally let it go. Oh, and then I chase after it, and then I pick it up again and I come back and I put my love glasses onto her, and she got very excited. And we had this most amazing interchange. And then a woman at a bed across from us, she pipes up and she goes, she's apparently a nurse, but she was unwell. And she said to me, "You don't know what you've just done, do you?" I went, "No." And she goes, "That woman has not smiled in 6 months, and she has not lifted her arm in 6 years." She lifted her arm because I actually tied the balloon up and we had a little game.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went, "You are kidding." And that's when I started to think that I reckon the clowning accesses a different part of the brain. It's an unexplored part of science, and I think any scientists that are listening, there's a lot of work to be done on humour and what parts of the brain it accesses. Because if she's forgotten she can't move her arm and moves it,
right.
I mean, what does that say? I mean, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes. So, look, I've seen a lot, and I've been to a lot of places. What I can certainly say, the essence of coming out of the hospital experience is these places are very dreary. Patch Adams went into the clowning because he saw the seriousness of the medical fraternity. They're very busy. They're academic, particularly the doctors. The nurses are run off their feet. There's also a bit of bullying that goes on within the medical areas these days because of must be low self-esteem and pressure happening.
Right.
So the clowns can sort of be an interruption to that, which is good. We can help rehumanize spaces where people are losing their sense of humanity and they're not connecting. So that's why Patch became a clown. He said he learned a lot from the nurses himself. If a patient died, for example, and a doctor had to talk to the parents, he noticed they were very clinical. And what he realised was that what the people needed was they needed the feelings, they needed the emotions, they needed the human connection.
Right.
In order to be, to have this sort of compassionate discussion about what's just happened. And he felt the doctors weren't able, and you could extend that out to men. It's to do with emotional suppression within the masculine, trying to discriminate itself from the feminine. But what I'd like men to understand, because clowning is a very feminine activity in that we are connecting through love and hugging and shaking hands and dancing and everything, singing.
Right.
So for the men listening to this, your masculinity has got nothing to do with being loving and nurturing and kind and compassionate. But we've been delivered a lot of archetypes through the media, violent videos and what have you, which have defined males in a less feeling state of being, where they seem to be strong through silence and not showing their emotions because it's vulnerability. In reality, it's the absolute opposite that gives you power, real power. The real power comes from being real. And you talked about authenticity. Absolutely being real in the moment. If you want to cry, cry. It's not being a girl. And there's nothing wrong with being a girl, by the way. It's a good thing.
True.
It's highly recommended. But don't get a sex change. You'll be fine. You're still gorgeous as you are.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that in because this compassion, it has to become much more prevalent on the planet if we want to end all wars, and if we really do want to achieve peace on the planet, we've got to connect and rebalance the masculine and feminine within. It's in every human being, and you will certainly notice some men are more feminine in the sense that they're more gentle and nurturing. Some women can be pretty, Bolshevik, be pretty... or they can be, real out there women that, sort of the doors go down before they even get there. So it's finding the balance in truth.
Mm-hmm. Balance is key. Yes, I think balance is key because we are both. We do have masculine and feminine energy, and to balance them is key. Very true.
It is, and what I find as a clown, because I have to adapt very quickly in every moment to whomever I'm with, because I'm not there to create disharmony. I'm not here to force people to be happy. I want you just to do whatever you want to do. If you want to be miserable, I'm happy for that as well. But I won't interrupt. I'll leave you with it. But if you want to dance and play, I'm there. I'm ready. I'm waiting for you to come join me. It's like that's the way I dance. I dance with people, so I'm really sensing their energy. I'm going to jump around a little bit here. I'm going to just take you mentally into a mental health hospital I went to in Vietnam. I was invited by a doctor here in Australia. I was doing a course in Bangkok, and I'll come to that as well. But I remember they were experimenting with me, the doctors. They were seeing how the clown worked in this room. They took me into a room with a child with ADHD. And I didn't know the child had ADHD, and I found myself going through all my props because I was naturally seeking to connect. And I didn't realise just how skillful this work is. I have a red nose that I squeak, so I try auditory. So you squeak the nose, see if that connects. And if the child responds, that's great. If that doesn't work, I try juggling, which is kinetic. So you juggle and see whether movement does anything for them. And all the whilst you're smiling and, you're making eye contact with them. And I noted very quickly that the child was very restless. The child was sort of jumping all around the place, not able to focus. And I knew that the child's energy, actually, because it was not unlike the clowns. We clowns move from one thing to another quite quickly. Right. And this child was doing it. Now, in my worldview, I didn't have an issue with the child moving from one thing to another. I noticed the child had an interest in music, so sound worked with this child. And apparently I did something, I must have done something great with the child or was perceived that way because the mother felt I'd healed the child. Now, I'm not making any claim to healing the child at all. I think somehow I related to the child, and what I would have recommended, had I spoken Vietnamese, what I would have recommended to the doctor is just let the child run around and be free, Let them get the energy out in its erratic way. Don't tell them they're wrong. Don't block them. Don't force them into conformity. Let them be free to be distracted. It's like we all say this is normal and you should all fit the mold. Well, I don't agree with that. I think we're all normal in our own way, but we do normal differently. And as a clown, I get very used to dancing with a lot of variety and diversity. And I think perhaps a lot of mental health conditions have come from the resistance, the stifling off of what is natural. Exactly. Emotionally, if we block our emotions, we get depressed. That's why people get depression. They're resisting the natural flow that's waiting, the awareness that's waiting to flow through them because they're in resistance out of fear. So you can't just take antidepressants to deal with that. You've got to face your fear with courage, really look at it. I would recommend the work of Byron Katie on that one. The conflict transformation. Question your negative thinking. Do not believe it's true. It never is, not for 1 second. If you are in judgment of anyone, it's because there's something in you that's a bit fearful of that other, and you're projecting that fear onto them. And so that becomes what you see in the world. That's why what you said in the very beginning, what you see in yourself or what you see in another is in yourself, is absolutely true. As a clown, I see only beauty in the world. There is nothing unacceptable in my world. And I've clowned in refugee camps, HIV clinics, leprosy colonies. I've clowned in a whole host of hospitals, Mother Teresa's Missionary of Charity in India. I have been with people who are completely disabled in the most horrific ways in India. And what I saw was sparks in their eyes.
Wow, that is
I saw the
beautiful.
Beauty.
Yes, that is so beautiful. That's so beautiful to see the beauty in everything. And I understand, and I resonate and understand what you're saying so fully, because I say that to people all the time. Focus on, look for the beauty, and you will see it, because there's beauty in everything. And if you look for it, you will see it. And you get those naysayers,
Well, they're not seeing beauty. Okay.
Yeah,
They're not seeing
I'm
the
walking
beauty.
around with rose-colored glasses. No, it's like, no, I'm looking for the beauty, and so I see it. I see the beauty.
Well, in truth,
go ahead.
you are the beauty that you see. You see. So even the word naysayer, it's like it's just simply that they've blocked off. They've blocked off the beauty that's within them. It's actually within you is where the beauty really is, and that's the connectedness to the oneness. That we bring back to this theme.
Exactly.
The beauty within you is the love. It's the love, and love absolutely changes what you see, but it's not rose-colored. Now, if we were to look at a sort of a critical type of thinking, let's say we look at the world of terrorism and all the rest of it, the filter through which you're looking is the media, because you're not in Syria, you're not in Iraq, you're not physically facing that other who is frightening and knowing in your own experience what's going on there. Now, so therefore you've internalized someone else's story that you believe is true, and if you're constantly hearing it in repetition, that's called operant conditioning. If it's been cycled to you continuously, you are going to take that on as a truth, and you're going to say, there are terrorists out there, and we've got to protect ourselves. Well, I'm a clown, and I know that there was a stilt walker. I've forgotten her name now, but she was from Britain. And she went to Iraq and stilt walked all around there when it was in conflict. Not one person shot at her. She was fine. Now, Patch Adams also went to Afghanistan, and that was around the time when it was there was a lot of conflict going on. I think it was not sure if it was the Russian invasion. I think it would have been. It wasn't when the American alliance came in, but prior to that. He went with women as well. He took female clowns with him, and it was the time of the Taliban, which is still happening today, of course, Taliban. And, women have to wear full cover, you see, under Sharia law. Yet he took all the clowns in there, and they were on top of a big combi. You can imagine the Afghans would have loved it, because Afghans are actually really lovely people. And I had a very good friend who is Afghan. And they're very, very funny. They have a very bizarre sense of humour. But they would have absolutely adored seeing the clowns. And these are very simple people. They're village-type people. And he had no problem whatsoever. Not one shot fired at him. Now, I remember Patch, I have to laugh at this, because I remember Patch saying that if you just dropped in 1,000 clowns into, maybe Israel and Palestine or, maybe Syria... The problem would stop, because what are you going to do with a bunch of clowns? You're just going to go, you either laugh at them or shoot them, I suppose. But it's like, why shoot them when they're funny? They just got to make... Actually, I'll tell you something funny. I remember clowning in a suburb around Melbourne, and there were some policemen in the cafe, and I went up to the cops and I said, hello, darling. I said, would you like a nice massage, You've had a hard day policing, fighting crime. And he goes, yes, thanks, that'd be great, So I start massaging away there, and he's really enjoying it, lots of oohs and ahs coming from him. And I said, I have a surefire way of fighting crime. I said, would you like to hear it? And he goes, yes. What's that? I said, when the criminal is running away, what you have to do is you have to crack a very, very good joke, very funny, very funny. And then he will drop his weapon. He'll drop his weapon because he's folded over in, paroxysms of laughter. Well, I said, then you've got your criminal. I said, but there's only one thing you have to remember. You have to make sure that it's funny. Otherwise he'll shoot you.
But that is so true what you're saying. It's so true about that what you see out. It's because we are all one, and so what we see is what we're projecting from ourselves. So it is so true what you're saying, that how we look at the world is just through our own eyes, because really it's just one of us. We're all there is us, and we're just seeing a reflection. the outer world is just a reflection of our inner world. So it's so true
That's
what you're
right.
saying. Mm-hmm.
And that's why a lot of the new teachers, the New Earth teachers now, are really inspiring people to drop the beliefs. Just drop your beliefs. These very powerful beliefs that we hold on to, believing so strongly that this is my identity, when in truth it's not my identity, it's just a belief. And when you question it, if it's negative, you'll find that it just falls away. I'm going to actually move us forward a little bit because I know our time is probably not that long, and I would like to sort of share with people how this journey evolved.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yes. Yes, sure. Don't worry about the time.
Okay.
Okay.
So to premise all of that, what I've learned from the clowning in hospitals and on the streets is that we're in danger of meeting a friend. We're in danger of making a friend. When you don't think and you just be happy, you will see the most extraordinary world. It's not rose-coloured. It's actually the way the world really is. It's the real world, actually, is what I see. I see the veil go down. It drops. And when they love you, when you feel love coming back to you, that's your mirror being reflected back to you. You put it out there, it comes back. So if you want to change the world, just be love, give love unconditionally, and you will be amazed at how fast your life changes. And if you think you're unlovable and practice love and fake it till you make it, you find that you are absolutely loved. You're loved anyway, and the fact that you're here on the earth means that love has created all of this. This has all come from the 0 point of love.
Of love, yes.
Which is interconnection. And all the oneness really is when we drop our story, we suddenly realize I'm looking into the eyes of myself, and what I see is nothing unacceptable. Now, moving into other areas, I kind of, for those more rational sort of thinkers, it's probably good to bring in some sort of academic aspects to this. I've also trained at La Trobe University. I'm an economist by training, so my background was really looking at international relations, looking at political situations across the planet, and the various conflicts that arise through differences in cultures, differences in languages, differences in...
Suzanne, it's not really you, but just kind of make sure you're not moving about. It's just using the direct connect link. It's not like a phone line. This happens a lot. Could you repeat what you just said, because it was kind of breaking up? But that wasn't your fault. Yes. No problem. I'll
just make sure I don't bounce around. What I was just expressing to people was that firstly, I actually might reframe it and say I dreamed I was teaching peace, which is what took me out of a market research background. I definitely had a fork in the road in my life.
I'm sorry, it's happening again. I'm not sure why. We were going really good for a while. Now it's just every other syllable we're hearing. Okay.
What if I go a little bit lower? Is that helpful?
I don't know if moving made the difference. So I'm not sure. I know you said you were moving, you were changing positions. So I'm not sure if that made the difference.
Okay, well I'm staying very still now. Is that helping?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What I'd like to share with people is that I literally had a shift in consciousness too, and that started when I was in London. I think it came from probably an experience of hardship, and I was very, very open in my mind to being happy. And I remember coming back to, I was in Canberra at the time, and I made a decision to move to Melbourne. And when I was in Melbourne, I was 5 minutes from La Trobe University. I decided to check out what was going on at the La Trobe. I found that had a course in peace studies. And so I talked to the course convener, and at the same time, I was sort of trying to figure out what I really wanted. and the only thing I could think of was peace. And I also found another person called Helen Caldecott, who was an anti-nuclear activist here in Australia. Have you ever heard of Helen?
No, I haven't.
Okay, she started Decisions for Social Responsibility. She set up 40 chapters around the world. She even had an opportunity to consult with Ronald Reagan at one point. She's very, very well-versed on the industrial military complex. And when I was Googling peace, I found her name and I contacted her, and I ended up driving 2,000-kilometre round trip to a place called Matcham, which is just north of Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent an afternoon together, and she encouraged me to read her books, some of her books, and she talked to me about, the affairs of the world. She encouraged me to go back to Melbourne and study peace studies at La Trobe. Now, the peace studies course at La Trobe is one of the few in Australia. It's actually no longer there now.
Mm-hmm.
But the course looked at things like peace and change. It looked at the politics of nonviolence. It looked at South Asia, so looking at the conflict between Pakistan and India. It also looked at mediation, which is a skill that should be in all schools. All children should be learning how to mediate a conflict by owning their perspective, listening to the other side, and collaboratively coming together to resolve the problem.
Right.
This is how we learn. Many people these days are diving into technology, such as iPads, and they're hooking themselves up, listening to the music, or they're on their phones. And what it's doing is it's disconnecting them from one another. And what they're not doing is sitting down. They're not sitting down and working out conflict. They're not working it out. They're not growing. And so what we see is when people don't face conflict, they stay in a state of immaturity. And so that's why we say this person's acting like a child. We say that this person hasn't grown up. And it's true, that person hasn't grown up because they haven't faced the conflicts of life in order to grow and know themselves and others better. It's an art we're losing, and we haven't even really established peace education and nonviolent education in schools properly. We're calling it anti-bullying right now, but that's more of a negative being applied to something where we need to promote it as a positive peace intervention in schools. Now, through university, I had a look at how nonviolence is perceived. Gandhi obviously is one of my favourites, and I ended up going to his ashram in Ahmedabad in Gujarat in India. Mm-hmm. I also dreamed that Gandhi came to me. It was a very short dream. In the dream, it was very dark, and all I remember is him with his glasses, his round glasses, but no eyes. And all I can reflect back is I felt myself beneath my feet, which means I felt humble when I saw him. And he had the long staff, like he was on the long march. And the feeling I got was being seen. And he's sort of been like, if you look into my book, which is on my website, I've actually talked a lot about Gandhi in there as well. But I felt him as a fellow traveller on this journey that I'm on. And so going to his ashram is probably equivalent to going to Mecca for some, or going to the Vatican for others. For me, it was Gandhi ashram.
I also have. There's also a book. There is also a link to your book on my website. So yes,
fantastic. That will give people the real detail. So moving on from the university situation, it was then that I actually dressed as a clown at university today, and sort of interacted with the staff and students. And at the end of that day was when I called myself a World Peace Clown. Oh. Now, I just thought, who else in the world is a World Peace Clown? And so I Googled it. Good old Google. Saved my life.
I love Google.
And I do too. I giggle over Google a lot. Anyway, I Googled Peace Clowns and I found Patch Adams. And I just impulsively decided to write to Patch. And I threw in a photo and I said, oh, maybe one day we can clown together. Well, blow me down, 3 weeks later, his brother, Wild Man is his name. I like Wild Man. He rang me from Washington and he said, I'm going to put on a really pathetic American accent, so please excuse me.
Okay.
He goes, Pat's got your letter. Does that sound all right? Pat's got your letter. and he wants you to come to Russia with us. and this is on the phone, so I'm saying, oh, that's great. And I'm thinking, I got no money. How am I going to get to Russia? And he's like saying in 5 weeks' time, and it's like, okay, this is where miracles, kick in.
Yes.
And I just had a feeling to take his number, and I rang my friend who I clowned with in the hospital, and she's got some wealthy links. And I also contacted Robert D. Costello, who was an Olympian here. I worked with him when I was a researcher. And he'd been to Russia, he told me, during the Russian Olympics. I didn't know that. But he didn't give me any money. But what ended up happening was a woman who had set up the clowning in Canberra Hospital. This was a wonderful lady who'd clowned with Patch before. She said to me, I'll ask my mother-in-law and I'll get back to you in 24 hours. So I have to say, blow me down again. I'll just blow myself down and come back up again. She rang me 24 hours later, and she goes, me and my mother-in-law are going to pay for you to go to Russia. You have to go.
Oh,
$7,500. And I just cried. Yes. Yeah. It was meant to be.
Definitely.
So like Cinderella, I had people donate everything because I literally had no money. So even the clown suit had to be put together, and, we had Perestroika, sort of stamped on it, and Glasnost, because it was at the time of the opening up of Russia. Very interesting times in Russia. So within 5 weeks, I was on a plane heading over to Moscow, and I got to clown with 40 clowns from all over the world. Some Americans, we had British, we had Netherlands, Japan, just trying to think where else. A few of the Russians came and clowned with us as well. So it was actually really exciting because we had translators, and Patch was there obviously, and he was giving a talk about not handing stuff out to orphans because we were going to go visit orphanages and nursing homes and clown on the streets. They took us on tours of Moscow and St. Petersburg. My experience in Russia was very powerful in the sense that there was a great need, particularly in the orphanages. There were 600,000 orphans at the time. Many people, when they give birth, if they're alcoholics or have some sort of problem, the child is removed and they go into these orphanages. Now, when I teach peace to children, I talk to children about the baby houses. They have rows and rows of babies. Now, if the babies don't get hugs, they can either die or become what they call imbecile.
Yes.
So,
that's so true.
The point I make the point that love actually is essential for life. It's not a fluffy term. It's actually the foundation of who we truly are.
Yes.
And without love, and we've got to talk more about love in discourse. It's got to become part of the national narrative, the global narrative, without it being seen as woo-woo, bloody out there, idealistic. It's not. It's absolutely solid. And anyone who's come from a very loving family usually is fairly together. So what I saw was the power of love in a group, and the energy was through the roof. I was amazed at the power of it, and the children responded incredibly positively. Everywhere we went, we sent out ripples. Patch's mission is essentially to bring a small group of people together as a tribe. He wanted them to experience unconditional love for 2 weeks, full service, giving service to every human being that they connect with. He also knew Maria, who was a Russian lady who wrote to him. She was an artist. And what she did was wrote between an English and Russian dictionary, asking for Patch to help her with her artwork in hospitals. So that's what started Patch's mission to Russia, which he did he's done it for 20 years, I think now.
Wow.
The clowns themselves donated to the orphanages, the orphans, and Maria's children, which was her NGO. What they did was they raised the money through the clowns, who all donated money, and that then went to charities that the orphan children chose. So it was some empowerment there for those kids too. Look, it was wonderful what Patch was doing, and it was a very, very powerful impact. He also made a speech, and it's on my website, and if anybody looks at my YouTube channel, WorldPeacefull, they'll see I've done quite a few videos, but there's one really powerful video of Patch talking about the love revolution.
Oh.
And he talks about the few governing the many. And what he says is what we want is the many, through a love revolution, in a sense governing, the world really. And he talked about the violence, in Iraq at the time. And he says, has anybody actually thought about love? And he's absolutely right. Do they talk about love in the Pentagon? Do they sit in the White House, in the Oval Office, and say, what would love do next? Not as a wishy-washy statement, but they've got to break this mindset that attack is defense, or defense won't bring on attack. Defense is the first step towards war. If you want to stop the violence, you've got to stop being violent. If you want a loving world, you have to be love. There is no other way. The universe operates in this way. It's a universal law. You can fight until, pardon the expression, the cows come home. They probably never will. But the truth is you have to deal with your own inner discord. Now, I do know that McNamara, through the fog of war, admitted, I believe this is true, that they believed the Vietnamese were in alignment with the Chinese at the time of the Vietnam War, and then they came to understand that there actually was animosity there. So even the problem solving and who's your enemy, it's like there is no enemy, firstly. Right. The enemy is our own thinking. The enemy, in truth, in my worldview, there's no enemy. I see no enemy. What I see is differences. What I see, if somebody's violent or negative, they're in pain. And we need to deal with the situation compassionately. If it's about power extension, we've got to help break that idea that power is overt. In other words, I control you to get my needs met, or I threaten you to make you do what I want. That's the predominant prevailing paradigm on the planet. I will scare you into doing what I want. But it doesn't work. And as we're getting more powerful weaponization happening, we're like, we've got the power to destroy the planet 4 times over. Now, I see that as woo-woo out there, idealistic notions of security. Right. The real security is emotional intelligence. It's seeing the other as yourself. What is it within me that's in discord towards the other? What am I projecting onto that other? And I know it's a negative projection because I'm seeing the shadow go across them. I'm seeing them as the evil other. Now, the minute you do that, and I literally had a conversation with a Vietnam veteran 2 days ago, and I said to him, how do you create peace? And he goes, well, how we create war is we find an enemy, period. That's how we do it. If there's no enemy, there's no war.
Right.
But people are still operating out of mindsets. And these wars are not just at the military levels. We're talking about war within ourselves. We're seeing wars in families. We're seeing wars in, organisations. We call it workplace bullying. There's wars happening there. We see anywhere where you're in an active defence and you're readying yourself to either defend yourself or attack back, you're in a state of war because you're in deep fear over something.
Well, and truth, the energy of defense is the exact same as attack. Attack and defense are the exact same energy. People think they're different, but they're not. They're the same energy. And I say all there is love. The action, either you're doing an act of love or you're crying out for love. So being quote-unquote negative, and I don't even like to use the word negative because everything is neutral, but an unpreferable act is done because they're crying out for love. But the love is within them. They just don't realize that because what they are, the essence of them, is love. But when you feel the need to have, if you feel the need to, you have to defend yourself, that feeling is the same energy as that attack feeling you feel that you're, so that defense is, that feeling you feel that you have to defend yourself is just that energy that you're projecting out that's coming back at you feeling like it's attack.
Well, that's right, and the core essence of that is fear, and that's where those two energies are the same. Now, anyone it's a call for help, most definitely. All attack is a call for help, or you're in a state of love. There are two ways to see life.
Yes.
So that's why those of us who are moving really deeply into the peace area, we understand that what we see in our world is a reflection of ourselves, and we have to take full responsibility for our thought forms. So, for example, when I sat with the Vietnam vet, if I was an anti-war person, I would be going, oh, he's a Vietnam vet, you know, he's violent. But I didn't. I sat with him with great love, and we exchanged. And I said, I'm not here in judgment of you as a soldier. I said, you know, I know there's post-traumatic stress disorder because we talked about that. And many soldiers suffer deeply through their trauma. And I said, really, it'd be great to be able to teach, like the work of Byron Katie, to the war veterans who are still suffering because they're still in war. The trauma is so great. And there's enormous courage in war too, but there's also enormous violence, and we have to be straight about this. So the peace work, and even just harking back to the clowning, is an opposite sort of energy in the sense that I embrace everyone as a clown. I have no enemies. I see nothing as undesirable. I seek to love everyone. And as I said, I clowned originally with veterans. They were my first group that I clowned with, and I adored them. So what I'm saying to everyone is we've got to drop the arms and start making some arms, ALMS.
Yes.
We've got to tune back in, not out.
Yes.
And if you really want to create peace in the world, we've got to start to communicate in ways that others relate to. So if we're dealing with a place like Syria, we've got to look into the culture of Syria and find where we join. We need to, you know, other players involved, the Russians and so forth, you know. What is really in our highest interest? Is it all about money? Or is it really about these conflicts coming to us because there's something we haven't quite understood about ourselves just yet? Because nothing comes into your reality by accident. So whatever is being experienced, there is a purpose inherent within it, and it may be a traumatic experience, but out of that can come great things. When, you know, I've had trauma in my life which has pointed me towards peace. So I understand that through the fear we learn about love. If we open our minds and look for the lesson in everything, you will grow and you will start to see that you're fine, you're okay. I certainly don't hold the view that the world is a terrible place, and I certainly don't believe it's falling apart in the sense of being out of order. I do think an old paradigm is ending and a new paradigm is most definitely beginning. And this new paradigm is really about our continuance. It is about our oneness with not only each other, but with the planet itself, as the planet is a living organism. You know, and certainly the work that I've done in schools, the Real Hope program, which I created, it's called Real Hope. And it's an acronym for responsibility, empathy, awareness, love, honesty, oneness, peace, and enjoyment. And if I get a nice week in school, services on the end. I come into the classroom as a world peace clown, and I wear a different colour every week. So if I come in teaching responsibility, I wear red and I have hands on my hat. And I say, responsibility is the ability to respond. You can do something. And I teach children about power over and power within. When I look at empathy, I wear shoes. I have very big clown shoes, and I have orange, which is a very warm colour. And I have a big shoe hat. And people can see it on my website. I've actually got a video on my website under anti-bullying. It's under school programs, anti-bullying, real hope. And you'll see the colours that I'm wearing. What those colours are about is coding. It helps children remember the values. Within each session, what I do is I start off with humour to get children into a mindset of positive humour. It's not put-down humour. It's all about really fun jokes. And then I talk to children about philosophy, and I say, imagine climbing up a mountain, and thinking deeply about something. And we'll discuss, we might discuss Gandhi's statement, be the change you wish to see in the world. What does that mean? Then we go into critical thinking around that particular value. What is empathy? What does it really mean? What would the world look like if no one had empathy? Well, they go around doing what they want to do. They wouldn't care about you. Right. And I talk about body language. I talk about awareness, and I have a purple hat with a big eye on it, and I wear purple. And I say that awareness is opening your eyes. And I have an activity. It's experiential teaching. So I have an activity where the kids close their eyes. They imagine the front of the wall, the sides of the walls, the back of the walls. And then I ask them after they've done all that to open their eyes and tell me what they didn't see. And so what I teach there is selective perception. We only pick out of our environment certain things. That's why no one is the whole truth about anything. We're all we're responding to life based on the very, very small snapshots that we're getting, and it's certainly not the whole truth. So the minute you get that, you realise you may not be right all the time. I also do a blind spot test where I get the kids to cover one eye and look at two dots on on like a business card paper. And I say, I want you to just keep staring at one of the dots until the other one disappears. Now, when the other one disappears, has it really disappeared? So they open their eyes and no, the two dots are still there. So why has it disappeared? Well, there's a blind spot in the eye where that dot disappears. And I said, it's exactly the same as when you think you're right. When you think you're right, you just see that one spot. The other one disappears. You cannot hear the other perspective.
Right.
I also, when I'm teaching, so I've just talked about responsibility, empathy, awareness, and love. I wear pink, and I have love hearts. And I talk about clowning in Russia and what love really is. I also talk about honesty, and I have a mirror ball. And if you can imagine all the little mirrors on the mirror ball, I say to the children, each mirror represents a person on the planet. Now, when you look into the mirror ball, you can't see yourself because there's so many mirrors reflecting truth. It gets confusing. We get confused. I said, but if I give you this mirror, and what I was giving them was a little fluffy, love heart mirror. I said, when you look into the mirror, only you can see you. Only you know your own truth. So just be aware that there's lots of truth out there, neither right nor wrong, just lots of truth out there, and you can't see yourself because it's a lot of truth happening. But when you just look at you, reflecting inwardly, only you see you. So I tend to talk about truth-telling as well. We can, I ask kids, can you tell the truth the whole time? And many kids say no, but I say you can. It's a question of having the truth. Like if you asked me if I like your jumper, just say it's not something I would wear. I might say what's important is not whether I like your jumper, it's about whether you like it. It's a jumper.
Yes.
If you're asking me, would I wear it? Well, it probably wouldn't suit me. And that's a way of telling the truth without saying, no, I hate your jumper. You know what I mean?
Well, it's perfect. it's perfect for you. That's what you can say that jumper is perfect for you. It may not be perfect for me, but it's perfect for you. Yes. So true.
And that's peacemaking. That's peacemaking where we're not in judgment of one another, but we're allowing diversity to be what it is.
Right.
And learning communication skills. I teach conflict resolution, so I statements. So rather than me saying, you are annoying me, when you are always talking to this person, you're never talking to me, rather than just making an accusation, which most people do, and they're reacting and they're judging.
Right.
You stop and say that when you would stop and you would say, when I see that you're talking to that person a lot and I'm standing with you, what I feel is left out, and what I would like is to be included in the conversation.
Exactly.
Now that's nonviolent communication.
Yeah. And that's beautiful that you're teaching children at a young age conflict resolution, because a lot of adults don't get that, don't understand how to resolve conflict. Like you said, it doesn't have to be your way or someone else. It's that they have their way of doing things, and you can appreciate their way is their way, and you have your way of doing things, and you don't have to do things the same. You don't have to be the same. You are unique. You're actually not supposed to be the same. You're not supposed to be another person. There's only one you, and you're unique, and you go within, and you be your true self. And I believe when people are tapping into who they truly are, it's easier for them just to, this is me, love me or not, but this is me, and you don't feel the need to please anyone outside of yourself, because by pleasing yourself, you're pleasing all that is. Because you're a part of all that is, and you know that you don't have to. The outer world is just a reflection, and the more you please yourself and send that love outward, it's just going to reflect back to you. So true.
And that is the new consciousness, and it's we're not here to make everyone like us. We're not here to just join with people who agree with us in glee clubs. We're here to embrace the great diversity which creates a contrast, and this is where the law of attraction comes in, where we say, well, if we're seeing people fighting and we say, well, I don't resonate with that. What I want is to be in harmony with other people, and that is how we use the contrast. The problem across the planet is we've taken very seriously those that we see as different, or we have hated what they've done, and then we've sought to punish them or try to make them conform to our view, and we've called it freedom. It is not freedom. Freedom is a very deep understanding of diversity. Real freedom is understanding that there is a natural order at play here, and that I do not know the purpose of that interplay between various peoples. Certainly from Byron Katie, I've learned, whose business are you in? Are you in your own business, in someone else's business, or are you in God's business?
Right.
So I'm bringing the law of attraction into this work as well. The oneness session is the next session that I teach, and I usually wear green, and I have a world ball and a moon. And what I start the session off with is the earth, in a blown up ball of the earth, and throw it into the center. And I say to the kids, which side is up? And the kids go, that side's up. And I go, how do you know that's up? And they say, because the writing is that way. and I say, children, I said, I went to NASA in the United States, and I went to an Omni theater, and I said, I saw the Earth from space. Do you think I saw writing on the planet? And they go, no. So I said, so which side is up? You lot always call us down under.
Right.
So this is a bit of a lesson for the US as well.
Yeah, you're down under. Yes.
No, we're not. I say we're up above.
Yes.
So yes, it's
so true.
It's all about perspectives and the way we choose to see. And in truth, there is no up and down when you're in space.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful blue and green and white orb that's out in a solar system that is circling the sun in a perfect order. So this is where science comes in. We see all the planets revolving around at various speeds around the sun.
Right.
You know, we have gravitational pulls happening. So there is a great order to the universe, and that order is on this planet as well. So even though negative events are happening, and we can perhaps use another word. What could we use? We could use contrasting events.
I use the word unpreferable. The things happen that I would prefer not to happen. Unpreferable events. Yes.
Well, see, I'm seeing it as it needs to happen because we have to confront. We have to confront within the reason it's happening is for a purpose, you see. And
yes, this is true.
There's great lessons that are going to come from this contrast. And the lessons, like, for example, in Syria, is not just about the Syrians. Because the message is being channeled around the planet, it's actually about us looking back at that situation and saying, well, who am I in reflection to that? Hoo-ha in Australia over the child being washed up on the beach, the refugee child. And yet refugee issues have been happening for forever. And yet it was an emotional scene that evoked within people a sense of that could be my child.
Yes.
And this is the seeing of ourselves in the other. And when we do, the situation in Syria won't be happening. The various conflicts around the world will just dissolve because everyone will see themselves as each other and they will be in service to one another. But at the moment, we see ourselves as separate nation states. You know, many people would see themselves as Americans in the US. In Australia, we see ourselves as Australians. Because I've been around the world to 20 countries, I see myself as a universal citizen.
Yes.
I subscribe to Gaia as really, love is my edict. Love would be my religion. And so with the peace education and perhaps creating circle parliaments for children where they learn to conflict resolve together, collaboratively, not as two-party systems, we need to move away from this adversarial. I used to sit in Parliament a lot in Canberra because that's where I grew up, and I used to look at the bullying in the question time, and what I saw was a lot of time being wasted on fighting one another rather than sitting down, nutting out what is the real problem here we have to solve. A few Edward de Bono techniques, you know, the 6 thinking hats, creative thinking, being brought to bear, I used to be a market analyst, so I think bringing the community in, surveying the community and asking them what do they think could solve, for example, homelessness. We're getting more of that here in Australia now. I saw it in the United States, people in tents, you know, first world countries. We have to come together and we have to take responsibility, not just blame the politicians when it's not working, but we the people have to take responsibility and see ourselves in one another and get active.
Exactly. So true. So, it's so true. Be the change that you want to see. That's so true. And it's so true that, you know, just being loving in every situation. What woke me up to the truth of oneness is one sentence. And I don't know if you ever saw the film What the Bleep.
Yes.
But I love the fact that science has proven that we are literally all connected. But in the film What the Bleep, Lynn McTaggart made one statement that woke me up, that inspired my awakening, and that is the biggest problem in the world today is the illusion of separateness. It's not real. We're not separate. We are literally all connected. And when we wake up to that truth, which I believe mankind is on the road to awakening to the truth of oneness. And once we are fully awake, when humanity is fully awake to the truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth, because we will see ourselves in that other. So
and
true.
that vibration is shifting. And I actually interviewed the director of What the Bleep. I was on radio for 4 years, and he was one of my guests.
Awesome.
So I'm also very, very interested in that. And what I would say also to people is that what we're dealing with here on the planet, and it's with great love that I say this, it's just simply unconscious.
You there? Did I lose you? Sue? Technical difficulties. Not hearing you. Sue? I still see you, but I'm not hearing you. Sue? Okay, sorry. I think we are experiencing technical difficulties. We have actually gone over 15 minutes. The show is usually an hour, but today I said I'm just enjoying and loving Sue's presence. She is amazing. She's on the other side of the world, and somehow we just lost connection to Australia. But Sue, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for being a guest on Awake to Oneness Radio. I will communicate with you via Skype or email. I'm not sure what happened, but we just lost you. But everyone, please check out Sue's website. Susan's website is www.WorldPeacefull, spelled with 2 L's.com. So that's www.worldpeacefull.com. And also on my website, you can find a link to her book. Thank you, Sue, so much. I don't think you can hear me, but thank you so much for being a guest on Awake to Oneness Radio. Love you much. Good night to all.